Democrats really over the last 4 years have really gotten their act together again. Remember that Supreme Court election that we had during the coronavirus, where people had to stand in line during the height of it? And there was a rather surprising result in that election. And I think that's the model that's been used here. So, I'm old enough to remember when Republicans absolutely dominated the get out the vote efforts and the early vote efforts here in Wisconsin. I remember that very well. I think that script has been flipped here. But again, the numbers you're seeing out of Wisconsin do not represent all of Milwaukee County. And frankly, that's going to be where the African-American vote is concentrated. Milwaukee County, Racine County, and Kenosha County. And I would be very surprised if you did not see a substantial increase from 4 years ago. And if Donald Trump cannot add to his margins outstate, and if he is losing votes in the crucial Milwaukee suburbs, places like Waukesha County, then I think it's going to be very difficult for him to win the state of Wisconsin.
Charlie, because it's Donald Trump, we know where he's ailing politically because he cries out to them and he cries out to suburban women exactly in the parts of the state that you're talking about. Have you seen anything come in Ohio or anywhere else that signals to you the kind of result in some of those counties?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, also in North Carolina. Now, whether or not Joe Biden wins in Ohio or North Carolina, I think that if you see the same kinds of trends there where Trump's margins have been cut, if you see that in places like Michigan and Wisconsin, you know what the results are going to be. The margins in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin are like this, right? So if, in fact, look, if you're looking at Ohio, Trump won by 8 points last time. He may win by 1 point this time. If you see that kind of shift in those demographic groups in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is going to be in a lot of trouble. It's because the reality is that here in Wisconsin, we're not that much different than Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan demographically.
Well, I guess that's what everyone's worried about, right? If you see Ohio go in one direction. But I guess one other question I have is the kind of Republicans, like the Paul Ryan Republican, are the kind of Republicans that can hold their own in a Wisconsin nice kind of state. Just talk about, Wisconsin can land differently. That Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania slice of it is terrain that the Trump campaign saw as slightly more hostile to the Trump trajectory. The Trump 2020 persona is not as winning in their own view as Trump 2016.
Well, think about it, that Wisconsin has one of the highest proportions of non-college educated white voters. So on paper, this ought to be one of the most Trump-friendly states, one of the most difficult states to flip around. So Donald Trump had to do a lot of work to alienate a state like Wisconsin, which I think he's done. And so, yes, you do have the Paul Ryan Republicans, but they're basically an extinct species. They're not here anymore. And the Republican Party here is, to be quite honest, is all in for Donald Trump. But like in a lot of other states that we've been talking about, because they've become so Trumpy, I think that they have been more repulsive and repellent to some of these key swing voters in the suburban areas that are going to make a difference here when we get the final results.
Charlie, I have one last question, and we framed all this around Trump because we've watched the Trump result come in Florida, but I want to turn it around on to the Joe Biden side. The Biden campaign is somewhat disadvantaged by the fact that the states where they felt the most bullish, where they felt the most confident that a Joe Biden Democrat would appeal in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, it's going to take longer. You're talking about 5 a.m. before some of that question will be answerable. Can you talk about how it felt for Biden? Do you have anecdotal sort of yard sign data or any sort of polling from the grocery store line or the Applebee's to share?
Well, I do think that you see this kind of shift here. There's a county just to the north of us where I think Donald Trump is winning by 40 points. The county that I'm in right now is only winning by 8 points. You get a little bit to the south, and Joe Biden is winning overwhelmingly. He's alienated so many of the suburban votes. But again, let's just remind ourselves that we knew this was going to happen, right? we knew in 2018 that the earliest returns that we got from Florida and Georgia would not necessarily be an indicator of what was going to happen nationally. We knew that there were going to be states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin that were going to be slow in reporting. So I hope that everybody just takes a deep breath and remembers it's the Big Ten, not the SEC, that's going to determine the outcome of this election.
Charlie Sykes.
Wonderful reminder.
Well put. Thank you very much, my friend.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.